Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey, have you grabbed your free Self-Love and Sweat monthly calendar yet? This calendar is so amazing. It comes right in your inbox every single month to help you have a little nugget of wisdom, a sweaty workout, a mindset activity, just a little something to help keep you focused and motivated and keep that momentum towards your goals. So every day when you get this calendar, you'll see a link that you can click that will lead to a podcast episode or a workout or something that will be very powerful and quick to read. And then you'll also see on the top left corner of every single day, there's a little checkbox in the calendar. And what that is that's for your one thing. You can choose one thing every month, or it can be the same, something that you want to implement, and make this something that you can easily implement, like daily meditation or getting a certain amount of steps or water, for example, and staying hydrated, and even taking your supplements. This can be something if you want to get more regular doing a particular habit and routine, you can choose what that checkbox means. So if you want your Self-Love and Sweat free monthly calendar delivered right to your inbox every month on the first of the month, go to lifelikelondon.com/calendar, fill out the form really quickly, and you will have your calendar in your inbox within a few short minutes. That's lifelikelondon, lifelikelunden.com/calendar. Go get yours for free and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have two really amazing and special guests. Both are from my hometown and I've known them. One of you, Jana, I've known you since high school, and Amanda, I've kind of known you. We've had mutual friends or friends that were siblings and have connected later on in adulthood. So I'm so excited to have both of you guys here on the podcast today, just to, chat about what it's like to be a woman from Merced, growing their their business online, putting ourselves out there, and then ultimately wanting to live our best life and a life that we love and feel congruent with. And so normally I'll just read a bio, about my guest, but I would just so much rather you guys share who you are and kind of what you're up to. So welcome, Jana and Amanda, to the podcast. And yeah, Jana, do you want to start sharing about you?
Sure. Thanks, Lunden, for having me on today. I'm super excited to see you guys as well. So it's so cool to be able to connect with other women that are from Merced or in Merced. So I am a registered dietitian. I own Health Wins with Jana, which is an online nutrition coaching and consulting company. We work with corporations and individuals to enhance their health and well-being. I'm super excited just to share what it means to be a woman from Merced, but just a woman as a whole that is in this space that's entrepreneurial and growing their brand, if you will, and really changing the narrative around what it means to care for yourself as a female. So thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And Jenna's been on the podcast before, so I'll link that in the description below. So yeah, welcome back. And Amanda, I talk to you all the time, but this is the first time on the podcast, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes. So Lunden and I are actually business partners. I am a wellness lifestyle mentor and clean beauty advocate. So I not only advocate for clean beauty and safer beauty laws and transparency in ingredients in your personal care products, but I also help mentor women. And this is amazing, especially being this, small town, theme of our show today is mentoring women like me who don't really know where to start and keeping things simple with just living a healthy lifestyle, because it shouldn't be overwhelming. And I feel like some people make it harder than it needs to be. So I'm so glad to be here and be able to be on this journey with you and be in company with other like-minded women. It's really amazing.
Yes. And Amanda's also a super power mom. And we talk a lot, and Amanda will be leaving me Voxer messages and like tending to her children at the same time and making coherent sentences and doing the thing. So I always admire the way that you do you, because I don't have kids. So I'm always like bowing down and in awe of women who rock it and then also like run a household too. So I have to recognize you for that, for sure.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start with, the Merced question. So all of us are from air quote, small town. I guess population wise, there are much smaller towns, but we grew up in the Central Valley of California, in what we would call like a small town. I think if you're from Merced, you kind of know the feeling I'm probably thinking about when I think about just, two high schools, a lot of friends, from our hometown, and then, kind of being elsewhere, doing other things and still being able to come back to kind of this rooted, grounded, at least I would feel like foundation. So how do you guys feel about growing up in a town like Merced? Do you feel like it helped you or impacted you to get to where you are? Because I don't know, I just feel like I've traveled a lot. I met a lot of people, and something inside of me is just like, there's nothing really like that 209 spirit. Do you feel that too? Whoever wants to answer first can go.
I definitely feel like being from a small town has helped with that like sense of an appreciation of community for sure. I think it's a value that maybe I don't want to say can only be appreciated, because I can't speak for other people who live in big cities or who, have traveled the world. But I just think it can be appreciated maybe greatly by people who are from a small town and just have that everyone knows everyone. Or like we were saying, I'm connected with you through this person and that person. And, not only a sibling, but a friend and a this and a that. And there's just that kind of like everyone knows everyone feeling. And I feel like, I don't know that that's helped me necessarily get to where I am, but I feel like it helps me with my confidence in where I am now. For sure.
Gosh, that's so true.
Nice.
So yeah, Lunden, when you when you asked this question, I was like, there's so many like memories that ran through my mind of just like really good times that I think a lot of people can share in the community. But the one word that came to mind for me was opportunity. So there were so many opportunities that were given to me that I don't think I would have had if I was in a larger city. So like, as some of you know, like I ran for city council and people came and supported me that I was like, I don't even know where you're coming from. And they were just like, we see something bigger in you than what you see in yourself right now. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I took away from it is one, the opportunity, and two, the community came around and said, we see you in a different light than you can see yourself. And it's okay to step forward because we got your back. And that was one of the big, like, I will forever remember that and still remember that as I'm building relationships, even outside of Merced, of how do you form those tight-knit relationships where you know that people have your back no matter what, right? Like we're all humans. We all have our flaws. We all have our things that we, struggle with, but still the community will come and support you and rally around you so that you can be everything you're meant to be. And so that's what Merced reminds me of, because that's what I experienced. And I think so many people do experience that in a smaller town.
Yeah, the rallying behind you, the I got your back, that like inner knowing of, yeah, like I love what you said about seeing that greatness or that power in you and you're not really seeing it yourself. I remember when I lived in Austria and worked there, there was at one point a girl that got a job. The company was growing a lot of different countries and she was from Tracy, California, 209. The instant we realized to each other, like where we were from, we were like, oh my gosh, 209. And like just something shifted, and even people like, of course, we had that connection because we were from the same town. I'm sure someone else could have that connection, but even people around us were like, it's weird. Like something about that connection with you guys is just like different. And yeah, her name was Kate and we became really close and just hung out all the time. And it just felt very, like a homie, like very rooted. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that I've met you guys. And then also just, like looking side to side, I guess literally here because we're in like this split screen space, but even just like in general, like looking and being like, wow, there's so many amazing women and people in general, but especially amazing women that I've connected with since being back from Austria and being, reintroduced to more people that I have always known. You just like don't get a chance to always reconnect. And so when I see how well you guys are doing and growing and others too, it just, makes me really proud of where we came from and just like the people that have come out of this space. Okay. So next question, which is one of my favorite topics to coach on and also to get clarity on for myself, is do you have a set of like core values or a why or a bigger picture and mission that, in addition to knowing people have your back in a town, whatever, okay, great. And it's important for us to like set up a structure so that like we can do what we say we're going to do and we can have our own back. And I feel like core values and whys are very helpful and powerful. Amanda, do you have one? I'll start with you first. Do you have one that is your like, go-to mantra, feeling, why, values that keeps you keeping on when it like shit gets tough and hard and life happens?
My girls are always my why. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, almost 3. And while I've always been an educator at heart, I'm a former teacher and left the classroom to be with my girls. And they are forever my reason for everything I do. And yes, like when shit gets hard, I like think of my girls and why I'm doing it and how I am raising our family, whether that's with, clean foods or, treating our bodies well. The work that I do, the impact that I want to make is for them and for their children and for their children's children, because I feel like I can't know what I know and live this life that I believe in so wholeheartedly without leading by example and teaching others as well. So my girls all day, every day, I want to be able to keep up with them until, till the day I die, literally, And so or maybe they just don't want me to anymore, and that's okay too. But it's always my kids and education and making an impact for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
What about you, Jana?
Yeah. So two of my core values are courage and integrity. Courage to do the thing that's uncomfortable, and integrity to align with what I say I'm going to do. And I think those are really hard to keep up with. And they're always moments, I call them gut check moments, where we really just have to literally, I like gut check my stomach and say, okay, like, is this in alignment with what I said I'm going to do? And am I stepping into courage of something that might be uncomfortable? Because it can be scary to put yourself out there, and it can be really overwhelming, and it can be all the things. And so as you lean into courage and do it anyways, I think it makes it a little bit easier, knowing that, okay, this may be uncomfortable, but I know that I'm moving outside my comfort zone, and I know I'm moving into something that's better for myself or for other people. And this really came from my own experience. Like there was nothing in me that wanted to be a dietitian. I wanted to be in like HR or something else. But then I got really sick myself. I was in and out of the hospitals. They couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And then I found out that it was because I was severely lactose intolerant. And so I changed my diet, felt better. And I thought, how many other people are not feeling good based on the food that they're consuming? And so I always go back to that thought. And what the doctor shared with me is, you will feel better when you eat better. And so I always go back to that in moments that feel like hard, or like I feel like my message isn't getting across, or, there's a struggle in changing behaviors, because that was really what shifted so many things in my own life. And so to continue to be able to share that and impact women is just something that is a grounding source.
So that's like a literal gut check. Like you had a literal gut check, right? And then now you like metaphorically use that to keep doing what you're doing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
How did you, because I love that gut check, because I think people can resonate with that in general. Like you kind of have that feeling, but I also know that feeling, that inner knowing can come as a different feeling. How'd you know it was like a gut check for you versus, I know sometimes it can show up in different ways, but like, how did you, because people have that visceral feeling in their gut or in their heart or in different places. Like, how is it a real gut check for you? Or how did you know that the gut check was for you?
Yeah. So when it doesn't go away, so if it, if it's like, okay, it's here one day and then it really never resurfaces, but if it literally has not gone away for weeks, months, years, I always say, like, you got to lean into that, because that is your God, like that is God speaking to you, and it's time to listen. And so if that's not going away and you keep kind of being like haunted by it, if you will, or you just like know it and you can't get rid of it, that's really where I'm like, okay, that's meant to be. Like we got to figure out how to go and move in that direction.
Yeah. And I often talk about it like hearing your body's whispers before it's like pounding at your door, right? Because I think we can all think of moments where we've been like, oh, I can kind of feel something's off. Maybe I should slow down or check that out or whatever. And then I think we all have those moments too, where it's like, oh yeah, my body was like screaming at me to be like, no mas, And so I think that when we get those feelings, it's important to recognize them, like you said, as a sign, and then, hold them with a sense of like, protection and endearment, to be like, okay, next time you whisper to me, I'm going to hear that whisper, instead of getting to that extreme every single time. So that's why I ask, because I think it's important to figure out how your body uniquely whispers to you. I also love the word courage. I think that's such a powerful word. And I want to recognize both of you, and then anyone listening to, like, it doesn't even have to be social media. Like when you put yourself out there, that shit is scary sometimes. And I believe that when you do it despite feeling X, Y, or Z, that's like cool. Like that's where you get to show you what you're made of. That's where you get to like gather the evidence of your greatness. And I would imagine the more opportunities you had to show up courageous, make it
easier, or let's say you're ready to like, it's like I've done skydiving once, it's scary as shit. And then you do it and you're like, I want to do it again. Like, just take me back up and I want to jump again. So I feel like, do you guys feel like does that resonate? Like where you're showing up to hard shit and then like you're remembering like, oh yeah, I did that before, I could do it again. Can you remember a specific time where you were super courageous and like pull that out of your back pocket? And how does that feel? I don't care who answers first.
Hey, really quick, I want to interrupt the podcast for just a minute to tell you about one of my favorite supplements for hair, skin, nails, digestive, and gut health. And that is Snap Supplements Super Greens with collagen. Now, if you're following me on social media, you've probably seen me post about this a bunch because honestly, this product tastes amazing and it's jam-packed with nutrients, like I said, to support healthy hair, skin, and nails. It helps support detoxification, a healthy immune system, and there's even probiotics in there for a healthy gut. It's non-GMO, no sugar added, soy-free, grass-fed collagen, and every scoop is going to give you 7 grams of protein. And this is why I love it, because it's not like a protein shake. It's just a scoop of powder. It tastes amazing. I put it in water, or if I want more hydration, I'll put it in coconut water and mix it up. And it's like having a nice, refreshing beverage that's packed with a bunch of super greens and protein. So what I'm super excited about is that for listening to the podcast, you'll get this discount here, nowhere else, but for listening to the podcast. You can save 25% off on all your Snap supplement purchases, including the Super Greens with collagen. And you do that by using code LUNDEN25 at checkout. That's LUNDEN 25. LUNDEN 25 to get 25% off at checkout. You can shop on snapsupplements.com, or you can shop on my website, lifelikelondon.com/supplements. And you'll see there's already an additional 10% taken off. But you, because you're a podcast listener, you're going to get 25% off when you use the code LUNDEN25 at checkout. LUNDEN 25 at checkout to get your Snap supplements, super greens, and collagen, and all your Snap supplements for 25% off. Now, let's get back to the show.
Yeah. So for me, that's where confidence came from. It was really being able to push myself out of a comfort zone that was really keeping me small. And it was the fear narrative, right? Like all the fear was coming up of like, well, what if, and all the unknowns. And it was keeping me in this little box that I was putting myself in, which was so ironic. And then as I this is why I'm such a fan of like baby steps as well, is because you baby step your way out of it. And those baby steps of you proving that you did that is it's building your confidence. So like, I don't care if someone does like 5 minutes of exercise or 1 minute of exercise. I just care that they did it, because they can then say, I did do that. And now we start building that confidence muscle. So the courage and confidence are so intertwined in my mind. And I see it over and over again of like, okay, just show up, just show up, just show up. And then now you look back and you're like, oh, I can do 30 minutes, not a problem. And you feel so much more confident in your own self because you did do it. And that aligns with the integrity, right? Like what you say you're going to do is what you actually do. And it's just a huge mental shift. And there's a huge life shift with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So good. How do you teach your kids courage or to step out of that box, Amanda? Like I know you do it with action. And how do you teach your kids to do that too in a space of integrity?
I think for me, one thing is leading by example for sure, but also never forcing them to do something, because not doing something is also really brave, I think, in a sense of they're 4 and 2, right? So we hear a lot, I think, of, encouragement with kids, like, you were so brave, you did this and you were so brave and that was so brave. And you climbed to the top of the monkey bars, or you did this. But it's also really brave to check yourself as a 4 and 2-year-old and say, I don't want to do that just because everyone else is doing that. And because, my friends did it and you say I'm brave for doing it, or, the other mommy at the park says that's really brave. It's also really brave and courageous. And I don't even know that they know it yet, to say, I don't want to do that. And I encourage that in my kids. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. We'll take those baby steps. We can climb up 2 steps up the jungle gym, or, going to the gym, for example. My girls usually love working out with me, and they do a kids class at the gym. But if they don't want to that day, that's okay. We'll go to the gym. The first step is to let's just go to the gym. I'm going to go, so you'll come with me. I'll just walk you into class. I'll sit next to you while you're stretching. And then the courage builds up, and then they decide to stay for the class that day. So a lot of it for me is letting their body's intuition guide them, and then they can develop their own courage.
I love that. I'm going to quote you. I don't know what exactly it was. I'm going to have to go back and listen, but really along the lines of like opting out and saying no and gut checking and being like, that's not what I want to do is also courageous. I think kids of all ages need to hear that. I'm raising my hand too at the same time, because we can feel like courageous means something. And that's what I love about just words and mindset in general. It's like, can courageous mean something else? Okay, cool. What can it mean? Does your brain buy it? Are you with it? Okay, cool. Let's add that definition, or let's add that to what that means for you. And I think boundaries are also super courageous too. So being able, like you said, to have that no moment or those boundaries. So cool. I feel like I'm being parented by you sometimes, Amanda. So I appreciate you.
Some days, I don't know. I don't know if I am the expert on parenting. I'm not the expert on parenting. I know that for sure, but I appreciate that you think I'm doing a good job.
Right. And just like Jana said, it's like great to have the people around you. And I say that for myself too. It's just like, hey, you're doing great. And you're like, oh yeah, are you sure? Okay. Yeah, you're right. I trust you, So I think we provide that for each other a lot. Let's talk about self-love a little bit, because that's a title of my podcast, Self-Love and Sweat. And I love hearing unique definitions of what self-love is to wonderful women like you. So what would be your definition of self-love? And then what are like certain practices or things that you do to love on you? Jana, you want to start?
Yeah. Great question. So I think it comes down to honoring my own needs. And it can be really easy to like put all these other priorities first, or feel like they have a higher level of importance. And when, again, I work with in the frame of coaching, right? Like, because do a lot of coaching. And so I always share with my coaching clients, and I feel like sometimes I'm sharing it with myself as well, is that you are the secret sauce of everything that happens. So if you are not taking care of yourself, it's not going to work. And so it's a reminder that self-love is a reminder that you are a priority, that you have worth, that you have value, that you have needs, and that you can honor those needs while also honoring other people. Because I think that the whole narrative, one of the narratives that I don't like the shift of with self-love is that you have to be number one all the time in order to be doing it right. And that's not right. Like, that's not accurate. Like, there are other priorities, and sometimes you might be number 3 or 4 or 5, but how do you realign yourself so that you still know that you are a priority? I think is the big shift. So really being able to honor my own needs, because I am a human. I have a soul. I have wants, needs, and desires, as well as everyone else too. So that's really the narrative that I share.
Love it.
Yeah.
What about you, Amanda?
I think of the analogy like you can't pour into an empty cup. So for me, self-love is being able to care for myself and pour into myself enough so that I'm overflowing, so that I can care for others, so that I can take care of my kids and, be a supportive wife and be a good friend still, and, do my own work, business, and coaching and all of the things. And so if I am empty, I can't give to anyone else. So self-love is, and I have to gut check myself. I do. And, it's easy to start prioritizing everyone else first, but I can tell when I'm empty, when I'm, getting low and need to give myself that self-love, get more sleep. Am I doing all the things that I'm teaching others to do? Or am I so busy doing all the things, helping everyone else, that I'm neglecting myself and I'm not even doing these things that I'm teaching, right? And that's like that integrity piece that Jana was mentioning. So it's so funny how it's all like so encompassing, right? In this realm of health and wellness. And so I think, can I pour into others? Do I have enough to pour into others? And what do I need to do for myself so that I can, if I'm not able to?
Mm-hmm. And you said like, just check yourself and see what you might need in that moment. And it could be sleep. It could be like probably a lot of things that, contribute to a fuller cup, and just slowing down enough to be like, okay, where's my tank at? Where's the gauge at? Right. As we talked about with Jana, of like some of those feelings that can be that gauge to like, is it time to fill up? Have I been? And I love the idea of like gladly taking like third or fourth place in a particular situation, because there's moments where, it is of the greater good of the entire situation if I sit in third or fourth place, right? Like being the cheerleader, like in the background and being the advocate and seeing how that can help. And then there's moments where it's like, no, I need that first place and I'm going to be first place here, and seeing it for the bigger picture of the outcome, not just like, I need to be first in all things and me first, and that's it. There's really a lot of greatness that can come when we do take that second, third, or whatever place, the back seat, if you will. And, then we know what things we need to take the front seat on. When I think of self-love, like for me, there was a lot on my previous definition that I felt like wasn't serving me as much of self-love. There was like a lot of doing on the list. It was like, this wellness, like it was a lot of like self-care, self-love, and it was like so much. And so for me, self-love, at least the definition that I think of when I created this podcast, when I think about it for myself, is like with grace and remembering that like, hey, in the process, like nurture and love on you too, because there are so many thoughts that come from all over the place, sometimes like a machine gun and sometimes like a grenade out of nowhere, and having that grace to be like, okay, I don't have to believe everything. And in this process, like kind of being able to step out and be like, okay, have grace. You don't have to do anything. Just acknowledging kind of like where you're at and loving on that is love. And so I just shared that answer to this particular question because I'm sure someone's listening where it's like, I don't have time for self-love and I'm doing all these things. And it's like, wait, it can mean just having grace for where you're at and like loving on yourself a little bit when thoughts decide they want to like, beat you up a little bit. So that's what I think of when it comes to self-love. Last question. So we talked about kind of, limiting beliefs, or not necessarily specific ones, but like keep on going on despite what might be happening, any feelings we might be having, how we, things that might be going on in our own personal life, like that desire, yet that struggle to show up. And I'm sure somebody listening is in that space too, where they're like, I want to put myself out there, or I do, but then it's like the consistency. I don't, what would you say to that person listening who has a desire to show up and provide value or help someone who might be struggling in a similar way that you were, and they have, that feeling, and maybe they're struggling with staying consistent or taking that first step. And I guess potentially that's like our former selves, or maybe some of our current selves, depending on which day, right? So like, what would you say to that person?
I'll take this one first. I think for me, reminding myself that I have a message, that I have value, that I have impact, and that someone out there needs to hear it from me. You can Google anything these days, right? You can find anything you need. The answers are out there somewhere, but someone needs to hear it from me. They might have heard, 50 times to move your body, or to, drink more water, or to do XYZ, but it's something about my message I feel like is going to click with the right person, even if it's that one person. I read a book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I don't know if either of you read it.
But I love Elizabeth Gilbert. So I'm excited to get my hands on that one.
So this is like the biggest takeaway. I literally don't remember anything else from the book except for this one part. She says, like, the universe puts ideas in our heads, right? The universe gives us our creativity, our gifts. And if we don't take it, then it's going to pass us by and the universe is going to literally give it to someone else. And Elizabeth said that she had this idea for this book and she really wanted to write it. And she had everything planned out, the characters, like the plot, everything. And she just didn't do it. She didn't go forward with it. Well, then she met in her, writer's field, she met another author and they started talking about this book that they were writing. And Elizabeth was like, that's my book. That's literally my book. Like, to a T, that is my book. And so that's the idea that, like, the universe gave her book to someone else. She didn't write it. And so it went somewhere else. And I feel like I don't want to ever miss that opportunity for the universe to give my message or what I was meant to do to someone else.
Yeah. I love that.
Amanda, I need to like sit with that for a little bit because that's so good, right? Like, and that's so true. So true. I think I would add to that is that feelings aren't facts. That has been, I would say, in my own journey, my feelings were getting in the way of facts. And so it prevented me, like, I could not see myself clearly to be able to move forward. And so I'm such a proponent of individuals doing the internal work, like the mental health work, the emotional work, the relationship work, because so often those are the things that hold us up, not because you aren't good enough. Like you are good enough. Like you have everything you have everything you need to have everything that you want. But often we get in our own ways because of those feelings that come up that are based on like old wounds or, just things that we've experienced and the narrative that we put behind them. And so I tell myself that like 20 million times a day, feelings aren't facts, and then work to find the facts. And I would say that it's really helpful, like for someone that wants to step out and, do their own thing or whatnot, get into community, because the community is going to help provide you with a reflection back that is more accurate than what you can probably give to yourself. And so community is so, so important to be able to share the like frustration, share the thoughts, and then be able to rework them, because we can only do so much on our own. And then we need other people. So I would say those two things: feelings aren't facts, and get in community.
Love it.
I love that.
Thank you guys so much for everything, for, just being who you are, because from an observer's perspective, it's so fun to watch and also informative and valuable to like, follow what you guys are doing, and then spending time here talking with you guys today, not just for this podcast, but for both of your guys' podcasts too. So if you guys liked this conversation, there's more. We're going to be over on Jana's podcast and on Amanda's podcast. So thank you both so much for being here. Let's finish by you telling everyone, where they can find you on social media, podcast, etc. And then if they want to hear us talk some more, they can hop over to your guys' podcast. You want to start, Amanda?
Yeah. So it's Amanda Marchini on Instagram. And my podcast is The One Where You Live Well, a little Friends reference there. That's where I am. I'm on Instagram. So those are going to be the easiest two places to find me.
Cool.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Jana Mowrer RD, and then also on the Nourish You podcast.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for listening. I'll link all of the social media handles and podcast links in the description, as well as the other episodes where you can hear on both Jana's and Amanda's podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you both so much for being here. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.